attend live or live via the internet. Thank you for coming out and welcome to our membership meeting for this month. So I guess formally we are calling the meeting to order, and I may go through some of these steps formally just in case. We learned recently that for certain business purposes, we must have minutes, and we have been taking minutes, but we didn't know that we needed to like bring them with us to something. So we're just in the interest of dotting all of our I's and J's and crossing all of our T's. I may read directly off here occasionally just so that we have definitely not missed anything important. So having said that, unless anyone is having any trouble hearing us out there on internet land, looks good. We'll move right into the business end of things. So major topics. First off, financial update. So one major part of this is always our membership roles, and for this month we are +2 net positive, and I guess +2 overall. So just 2 new members, no losses this particular month, for a total of 107. That total includes people who might have a discount or special deal or be a family member +1. So that is like all the memberships at any pay rate, but most of those would be at our $50 rate or 100 if you're able and willing to be so kind.
Or 75 or 65.
Yes, we do need help, and there will be more on that in a bit. But we do really need more members, and we would also like to see more of the members that have been with us and are still with us. So if you know anyone who might enjoy the space or who might find it to be an interesting and useful group of people for projects, ideas, anything like that, we encourage you to encourage them to come out to one of our open houses and or one of our classes that they might be interested in. If there are classes you're possibly interested in teaching, or might even just be interested in seeing someone teach. If a lot of people would love to have a certain class and we know someone or one of us can figure it out, then we can try and make things available if we know that they are in high demand. So if you are interested in, say, Arduino or what else, 3D printing, let us know, because some of these things we do have members who have run the classes before, and if we knew there was a desire for that sort of thing right away, we might be able to move quickly and then get things started. Yes, Lily.
I have a statement. It doesn't necessarily have to be a class either. It can be a workshop, a meetup, a shindig. Like, it can be a bunch of people with these same interests, meeting up, talking, discussing, just working on not non-guided projects. Guided projects are great. Just hanging out with a common interest, also great.
Yes.
Hey, in kind of relation to that, just as a good example, many years ago, not even that few ago, but before COVID, we had the DC 407 meetup on like Thursday nights at the lab, and that's security, IT security, hacking, that kind of stuff. It's just kind of a general meetup. It wasn't a class. There was no like official, agenda. It was like somebody usually had a topic to present, and then people would talk about it, and that was how that went. So it could be very easy and very, very casual. All you need to do is be able to show up and willing to host people.
That's a very good point. You don't have to be an expert or the most expert in the room. All we need is your enthusiasm and your desire to host some or another format of event. And so if you would like to do something like that, we would strongly encourage that as well. And if you have any questions about that, definitely ask one of us or put it in Lab Ops and Development channel.
Events channel, any channel.
Yeah. Any channel that seems right. If it's not the best channel, we'll send you the right way.
The Lord says a church is 2 people. And if it's good enough for God, it's good enough for us.
Well said.
Amen.
So also, if you have made anything cool that you would like to show off, this month especially, but recently works for us, hashtag I made this is the channel for that in Slack. Brian, do you happen to know if we have that equivalent channel on the Discord as well?
We do not. The Discord does not have that many channels. Most of it is game related, but we can spin up additional channels. So I do have some cool stuff to show off tonight, though.
Well, that's exciting. I think we, I guess. So I think we used to do that towards the end of the meeting, but is now
Usually.
time to do that.
Hey, we haven't. I made this channel in Discord too.
All right.
We do.
Power.
So, yes. Soon we'll have just as many channels on the Discord as we have on the Slack. Right?
Yes, well, we haven't quite built out everything there because, well, there aren't too many people there yet.
We mostly use it for gaming, and we don't. It's in the gaming channel, but we don't like widely advertise it as to not split focus.
But we could,
We could.
and we should, because it's certainly more discoverable than the Slack. So
That's fair. Someone write a bot that copies everything from Slack.
that's not something we want to do.
Some of those things should never have been written down in the first place.
Exactly.
All right. Well, just to close out the financial update, in addition to the membership changes, we had a couple of donations that we wanted to highlight. One of those was a $100 donation towards the laser, which is always one of our most popular pieces of equipment. And so when someone is able to directly donate to the continued maintenance of that, that always helps because when things go wrong, it isn't always the most inexpensive thing that goes wrong. And then we also had a $25 general donation. So I don't have who those were. So whoever you were, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And I think we'll be talking more about how that kind of stuff really does matter these days in particular. So for general updates, membership numbers, as mentioned in the previous section, we do need to get our membership up. When we first moved into this particular space, we were in maybe a different moment of the maker movement, and it looked like we were going to grow and grow and grow at a certain rate, and we haven't grown quite at the anticipated rate, and so that has made where we are a bit unwieldy, given a confluence of factors, as many of you have probably experienced. Rent is going up for everyone everywhere. And so looking at the numbers, it's tough if we have, impossible if we have the same number of members and, we try to live out our lease. When the lease would be up to date, the rent is going to, I believe, more than double based on what we're predicting.
Yeah, the current rate they're renting this building for is, I think, $12.75 a square foot a year, which for the space we have would be $6,500. We currently pay $3,200.
So we had a deal that was that worked for us at the time, but this is something that while we don't we have this space in a lease until next year, I think.
No, March 2025.
March 2025. But the rent is not low here, and we can't really. It's hard for us to lower costs too much more. During the summer months, the power bill is going to be a little bit higher, but we can't expect that to go below a certain amount. Below maybe the non-summer average, generally speaking. So one way that we can address the problem of revenue imbalance, because to give you a sense of scale, right now, just with rent going up within the parameters of the lease, we're averaging around $400 a month negative. So we are losing about $400 a month, and we can't do that forever. We're not in a 5-alarm fire, figure out something by next month or we're kicked out kind of situation, but it's not an excellent situation either. And so, part of that, or rather part of the solution to that is, we think if we can, re-engage with the community, find more people who might want to be members, because I know some of the people we have had in the past, whether or not they might still be on the roll, we might not see them as much. And so I think, if they might want to come back, there might be other people who don't know about us yet who might want to come back, people who have moved here or found out about it recently. So, once again, if you know anyone who might be interested in being a member or who maybe has been a member in the past and they're around here, let them know that we are still here and we'd love to have them.
Real quick.
Yes.
Just from an outside perspective, like a person that's just joining, I'd been wanting to join for a long time, but when I kept looking at the website recently, since COVID, I never saw any updates. It looks very dated, and that's something that could drive people away because they just don't even know it's still going. Because it wasn't until I joined the Slack that I started realizing, no, it's still active. There's still people here, still people going, so maybe updating the website or pushing forward with that would probably help out. Or just like you said with your project of having people showing what they made this month, just putting a few of those projects up there would probably help drastically with driving engagement.
I do know there is a member working on doing some updates to the website.
Mm-hmm.
I can, like, if anyone is interested in helping update the website, I can connect you with that member.
Yeah, definitely.
For most non-business level tools for FamiLAB are open to the members. So like right now we use WordPress, and that was historically used because it's relatively straightforward to give someone access to make a blog post, for example. And like the wiki, it's straightforward to give someone access to edit a wiki while maintaining some admin level control.
Be something like share updates of new design in progress and get feedback from people, like as making the update part of that community building.
Certainly have like a drip feed of the I made this channel and just kind of show off things people have made through.
On that same vein, however, that does mean we need people to share what they're making. Because we could update the website all day long, and if we don't know what cool stuff y'all are making, we won't have anything to update it with.
Another cool thing I remember back when I was originally going to join back in the day was you guys used to have a live feed. It wasn't even completely live. It was just like it would update maybe hourly, just that way you could see who's in the lab. Maybe you could see someone's working on a project, and then that way you feel more obliged to come in because there's someone here.
Yeah, that unfortunately, I think that the controller for that app, which was custom made, died, and with it went the code.
Yeah.
I think that's why that is no longer functioning.
Okay.
I remember that was like a Twitter account, right? That
it posted to Twitter. Okay. Sorry, X, shitter, whatever. It posted to Twitter, but it dumped every 15 minutes into Slack, and that was a great tool.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's a bit of over the years the kind of brain drain, if you will, where something wasn't fully documented. The hackerspace curse.
Yeah.
And we don't have the code and the people with the knowledge to do that have not.
I wonder if I could find a GitHub for it. I'll take a look online.
It might be on GitHub.
Or I'll look around and see if we can find a similar project. But I think that would probably drive a lot of engagement for you too. It's just people seeing.
Well, and
yeah,
the other part of that is that when the company when it closed shop, I actually got a couple different cameras that were the same type that we were using originally. I also think some of our cameras died. Like I think that the cameras physically failed themselves and so couldn't work anymore. I gave those to Omega Total. I'm not sure where they are right now, but that was the same type of camera used in that setup. So if we can find the code to make it work, then those could be possibly used to supplement that system again.
Yeah, I think that would help out a lot because you see people here. It just makes you want to go, especially just to see even people working,
Totally, yeah, no, and that used to be a pretty regular thing. Like it's been a few years since it was like this, but I remember coming here on Saturday, and basically any Saturday, someone would be up to something.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, we would like to bring that back. And it's sort of, we are a duocracy. And one thing we want to try to, avoid is falling into where, a small number of people are doing the vast majority of the organizing and admin. Because we've had that happen in the past, and it's been a very heavy burden for some of the past board members.
And it's a bit of a chicken and the egg, because it's hard, because like someone has to do it and stick with it for a bit. Like you can't, and it's hard to, keep doing an event where 2-3 people show up or a hangout. So it's like we need people to show up. Yes, thank you, Mark. We will get to that shortly.
Yeah, we've got you.
We need people to show up, but in order to get people to show up, we need people to show up and bring back that social aspect.
Yeah, totally.
And we don't, the board does not want to be like decrying this from on high on Mount Olympus. We don't want to be like, show up today. We prefer, because the board is really just here to do the business end stuff. The membership is like, FamiLAB is for and by the members.
Board is more responsibility than it is authority, I think.
Yeah. Board makes sure the electricity stays on and the AC eventually gets fixed.
We do our damnedest to make sure y'all have a place to play. We just need y'all's help sometime. Like getting more members. Anyways, soapbox off.
So yeah, but you are all here with us tonight, so we do appreciate that, and it's a tough problem to solve, or a tough situation to resolve, I suppose. Anyhow, I think that was all I needed to say formally about membership. Before we move on, well, I guess we'll kind of go into the next point, which was social media. Thank you, Adam Remington, for posting to some of the social media outlets. I haven't been following that as closely, so I can't remember which off the top of my head would have already happened, but I know we're talking about some of the various social media apps and websites, and some of that has been underway. One thing that Adam has asked for is if you have info and pictures of things you're currently working on or have recently completed. So if basically he's in a conversation I had with him, he's willing to kind of make the post, but he needs the content. So if you can kind of if you have something that you think is cool, that you might like to show off, or even that you just wouldn't mind us showing off, please send that our way. Does someone have Adam's Slack handle?
Yes, A.M. Remington. I don't know what the M stands for. The A stands for Adam.
So A.M. Remington, 2 M's in Remington. That might be the only spell.
Nope, 1 M.
Oh,
did I screw it up on the agenda?
The agenda was wrong.
Dang it. The worst.
Anyhow, it should autocomplete if you do AM Rem. So, so unless there are any questions about that aspect or those particular issues, we have a moment for open discussion. So if there is any item that any member would like to discuss, this will be followed by a show and tell segment. So if anyone has any issues, questions, comments, concerns, statements for the good of the group.
It's like 6 months out of date for what the topic is relevant to, but since we were talking about it, like marketing and getting the name out there, I remember I was at MegaCon this year, and there's some other makerspace like south of here,
Maker Effects.
yeah, that was doing that, and I was wondering if we've put any thought towards the logistics of that. I assume it wouldn't be easy, but
it's possible. It's also possible for us to piggyback with Maker Effects. They are our friends. It's again one of those things where it needs somebody to drive it.
Yeah.
Someone to.
Yeah, if anything like that comes up that like interests you, that you're like, oh, Maker FX is going to be there. Maybe I want to be there too and represent FamiLAB. Literally just let us or anyone at Maker FX know. And they're like, yeah, sure. It sounds good. Come on by. Like there's no, it's less formal of a process than you may think for a lot of that, especially if somebody we know is already going to be there.
But it comes down to needing
Right.
people to not necessarily chase it, but be wanting to do it and having the stuff to show off.
Well, having this year kind of learned about the logistics of managing a booth, it sounds like something I might be willing to participate in next year. And
Yeah,
it does seem
absolutely.
like and it seems possible, at least to pitch that to somebody, well, especially people who want to be at MegaCon already.
It sounds like questions are how far in advance does that need to be planned out?
Yeah,
Or
well,
where's the
That's
information?
why the
to,
6 months out of
Yeah,
date thing
exactly.
happens to be
That's
Great
convenient.
time to be
a
asking.
good impulse though, because
Yeah.
it
Because
always
seeing the
surprises us
Maker
when
FX
Maker-
booth this year, it actually doesn't seem like anything that's super demanding. It's mostly we find the things that we've made, we put some on display, and we leave out some info panels.
When we have one
That's
crazy person
crushed.
that builds a life-size guardian.
Yeah.
They have an awesome member who does a bunch of cosplay and did a life-size decayed guardian
That
from
was
Legend of Zelda.
And I have actually been to one of their nights for the like cosplay build instructions. They tend to do like a themed night.
Yeah.
So as has been said by a couple other members, definitely, don't feel like you have to not attend things there because you're with us. It's very friendly. I think we still have some people that are members of both places. So, there's a physical distance, but the love is right there. So,
There's enough.
I'm in
I think
favor.
I asked because it was like it occurred to me now that is a thing that can be done, and I just was wondering if anyone's ever like brought it up and was like, no, we can't do it because of a reason. And if the only reason is just that nobody's wanted to do it yet, then yeah, I'd be totally down for that.
I would definitely encourage you to maybe consider, like, if there is a time, like, I don't know, a weekend or a weeknight that you or you and friends could just have an event like, cosplay build meetup.
Yeah.
And it can be themed, but it doesn't have to be, because I'm sympathetic, if it's a class, there's a bunch of organization to do,
Right.
Whereas if it's a meetup, then no one's coming there like, who's in charge, what's the program, what's the plan.
Yeah.
And in some ways that can be better for organic project finding. And
No,
anyway,
this is like a specific thing that isn't relevant to like every bit of time in between now and next May. So I get that.
but I think there are a lot of people who might like it, who might join in if it was already going on. If they came here to get their 3D print going, and then, now, hey, wait a minute, what's going on in here? I would encourage you to, talk to people.
Yeah.
Because if you had an event and it was when I could attend, I would definitely be attending.
Yeah, and this all in case it wasn't just blindingly obvious, all of this push for more events and classes and things like that is to acquire more membership and more revenue in turn, so that the lab can still exist in 2 years.
That is a good point.
I don't know if you saw
Just cutting to the point there.
DC 407. I actually just went to one of their meetups recently. They had one over at a data center over in Orlando, but they're just starting to do meetups again. So I don't know about reaching out to them about coming back over here, because they have a Discord set up too.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where these meetups and things bring in people from other groups that we're not normally talking to, and that's great. That's the way that the lab continues to grow organically without us really forcing something to happen. And that's how we kind of started, and how things got where they are now is we had those meetups and we had some classes, and we all the people at the lab told other people about the lab. Unlike Fight Club, the first rule of FamiLAB is talk about FamiLAB. Well, not really, but it's one of those things where as you continue to talk about it more and introduce more people, that also then helps other people introduce the lab separately as well, expanding our reach.
So I am looking ahead and I am noticing we actually have a few members who would like to introduce tonight. And so for those of you out there who have something to show and or tell, I don't want you to feel like that will happen. But I want to make sure in case any of the introducing members have any time constraints that they have a chance to introduce before we get too deep into the weeds. So unless there are any questions in moving to that phase of this meeting, I think we'll go on to that. Going once, going twice. All right.
I saw a thumbs up in Google Meet. Is that a thing that you can do?
So first member introduction, and these are not in alphabetical order, and you will just have to deal, is Mark Sardi. And
That's the person online.
yes. And are we having folks introduce themselves?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just have them introduce themselves.
Yeah. If you would not mind and you are able to, please introduce yourself to those of us here and on the web. Mark.
Hey, I'm Mark Sardi. You're speaking to me from my hotel room in upstate New York. I'm actually up in this area for a sculpture course, and I'll be back down in Orlando at the end of the week. Yeah, I visited FamiLAB before. Dave Casey's a friend of mine, and of course, I've been talking for years about joining, and now I'm finally on sabbatical for the year. And so I'm trying to join now. Of course, I think now's the right time for me to get involved. And I'm a professor at Rollins College, and I'm also a scout leader and very active in Central Florida Scouting as well. So I'm not sure what else I could tell you.
Right on. Any questions from the membership for Mark?
Hey, Mark, I have a question. Can you tell us a little bit about what you teach at Rollins and why it's so diverse from your hobby interests?
Okay, so I'm actually kind of boring. I'm a finance professor at Rollins.
Hey.
But, yeah.
Hey, we've got some questions for you.
Yeah, I bet you do.
Bookkeeper.
So, yeah, I was going to say, but there was a point in my life where it was a choice between going in the art direction or going in the, physics direction. I went in the physics direction, which ultimately led me to business. But I've never stopped being a closet scientist. So at home, I have about, 6 or 7 3D printers. I have laser burners, CNC. I have all the equipment that you can imagine, and I'm getting to that point where my wife is ready to throw me out of the house with all my equipment because it's she's like, what are you going to do with all this stuff? But I have a lot of diverse interests. I mean, I mentioned I'm here doing an art project. To me, that's part of what drives my interest in a lot of that stuff is a cross section between, or I should say, the sort of scientific side, 3D printing, all that other stuff mixed with, doing artistic and creative things. I have a background in welding and many other things as well. So hopefully I could bring some skills to the table as well as just, being another person floating around. Oh, and as far as Boy Scouts, I'm Scoutmaster of Troop 641. I have been Cub Master of Pack 641. And I was very active in Central Florida BSA, but I've kind of backed off a little bit for a number of reasons. My son is just about at the Eagle Scout level, so that's part of the story there. But of course, one of the things, and again, I don't want to ruffle any feathers, there's a lot of young people that are involved in scouting, and there's a big push in scouting to do a lot more STEM-related work, and I'm a STEM counselor for Central Florida BSA. And so I thought, well, there's a place to kind of get future members from, families or people like that might have an interest. And of course, I know young kids can be a little bit of an issue, but I've done courses for them where I've taught them about composite materials and, making molds and things like that. And so again, it's an opportunity to kind of, come up with creative things that you can do that introduce more people to FamiLAB.
Thank you for answering that question. I know we had a few hands up, and I also see, Aaron, you have your hand up in the chat. Anyone still have questions? Mark?
I was going to ask about Robbins College because I graduated there, but you've already answered that.
Right on. Go Boxes, I think.
It's ours, but
Okay.
nobody remembers. We're not
Apologies.
sports.
And then Aaron.
Who was it that said they graduated from Rollins?
I'm not in front of the camera, but yeah. No, I was a theater arts major, which is why I don't think we ever really interacted. I never really saw much of the finance side of things.
Yeah, I teach the undergraduates. So if you know international business or business, you know people who've probably had me.
I know a couple of people who were in that program, so they may have known you. But yeah, it's kind of like a thing.
And I know obviously quite.
Yeah, I was. My question was regarding the scouts. You kind of already answered my question. Whether what kind of scouts did you lead? But yeah, do you guys typically do any kind of rocket stuff? I know a lot of scouts here in Central Florida do a lot of rocketry, like Estes level rockets and whatnot. I was just wondering if you had any involvement in that.
So I've done it with my troop, and I know that we try to do it. Of course, I've probably had about 3 or 4 rockets end up on Maitland Avenue, so they were, launched and summarily run over by car. So it's not good for a rocketry program from that perspective. But Central Florida, so there's a thing in scouting called the Supernova and Nova Awards, and there is an entire branch of that deals with rocketry. And I think there's a lot of scouts that are very much interested in rocketry, robotics, and a whole bunch of other stuff, which, dovetails really well in that. And, with scouting, just like with anything else, if there's a volunteer willing to take the lead, it happens. And I've been asked on many occasions and have done quite a few lessons at, Roundtable, where I work with Boy Scouts or with Cub Scouts to kind of handle some of those, technical areas for them, which is a lot of fun. I mean, it's a little challenging, but it's.
Challenge is mostly with the kids rather than the rockets.
Well, the thing is you got to get the kids' interest. As soon as they launch one, they immediately want to do it again. And we've done stuff with rockets before, which they're a little bit easier because they don't go as high, and so they don't crash land into the highway afterwards. But the Estes rockets, we can get really powerful rocket motors and go up. Or if I've never gotten to the point where we've found people that really want to design and build their own much more powerful rockets, but there's always, you never know what tomorrow will bring. So
right. You think if you had a better space, then you may have more successful launches and maybe repeat launches with the same rockets?
Yeah. I think the scouts always love stuff like that. They really enjoy it. Any opportunity you have to do it, it's always finding an adult that's willing to sort of sit down with them and make it happen. And a lot of the scouts, they get to the point where they become Eagle Scouts, and then they lose interest because there's nothing new going on that they haven't really done. And so when you do some of the technical stuff, which they don't really have a chance to do elsewhere, they get very excited. And they actually, and they're the kids that are 17, 18, that are going on to college, but, could be potentially very actively involved while they're in school as well.
So
nice.
This has been a very good discussion, but I want to make sure we keep things moving because we do have a couple more members to introduce. So thank you again, Mark.
You sound awesome, Mark.
Yeah, we are looking forward to having you around. And without further ado, we'll move on to the next person in the list. Is Raphael with us this evening? Live or in chat? Raphael Astro? Like space. I'm not mispronouncing the name. Okay, well, perhaps Raphael will join us in the September meeting, or maybe if we're lucky later in this one. Our next name on the list, James Katz.
Hey, nice
Hello.
to meet everyone.
So, welcome.
Like I said earlier, I've actually been to FamiLAB. I was here about 10 years ago. I didn't end up joining back then. I ended up being poor for a while, so I just didn't have the money to join for the membership, but I've been wanting to ever since. I continue to check up on you guys, obviously. So, like I said, I've just always been interested. I have like 4 3D printers at home, mixture of FDM and SLA. I've always been interested in getting a CNC machine or working with a CNC machine or working with a laser cutter, but I haven't ever had the opportunity yet. So that's actually part of why I'm here. I've also been interested in metalworking and stuff like that. So, and just to give you an idea of one of my recent projects I've been working on, I actually made a Ponagachi recently, which
if someone is like me and isn't sure what that is, what is Ponagachi?
So Ponagachi, it uses a Raspberry Pi Zero, 0W, and it has an e-ink screen on it. And what it does is it monitors for wireless handshakes in the area. And if it can pick up a wireless handshake, it goes ahead and records it. It actually uses AI, so it can actually continuously do a better job of finding handshakes and recording it. And then afterwards, if I wanted to be nefarious, I could go ahead and crack their Wi-Fi password using those packets.
But
So,
only if you wanted to be nefarious.
if I wanted to be nefarious.
That's one of the most hackerspace shit things I've heard in a long time.
You're in the right place. How'd you make it back from DEF CON so fast?
Yeah, no, I want to go. I want to go. I haven't been yet. So I think I'm actually going to plan to go next year. They were actually talking about that at the DC 407 meeting that I was at a couple weeks ago when we were at the data center. So that was a lot of fun. But like I said, I want to go. And I'm definitely have a lot of interest in getting into the badge culture and all that. So.
Right on. Any more questions for James this evening? I guess.
What's your favorite Ninja Turtle and why is it Raphael?
Well, I'd say Raphael because he is just a badass.
Right
Purely.
answer.
Purely.
Everybody else has. But that's not true.
But just in case anybody was wondering, I do work at a visual effects company right now. I'm actually watching their server farms. So that's what I do for work.
Nice.
We have another member who does visual effects that I don't even know how to describe it. He posts occasionally, and I made this when the NDA finally ends. He's done like a bunch of music videos. I think it was it The Voice? One of those shows where they like generated the
Yeah, it was The Voice.
the visuals while they were doing their set.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Done a few festivals, done a few things he has.
And doesn't sleep ever.
I have California time.
He kind of works for 72 hours straight. Sleeps for like 3 days.
Yeah, that sounds like over. That makes sense. Yeah, no, I'm one of the few lucky people. Since I actually get to sleep. And I'm not in charge of
Thank you, ever cut that.
much, so I don't get woken up in the middle of the night.
Glad that.
Is there
Because I know.
Any additional?
are there any is there any classes that you like to take or teach?
I wouldn't mind helping with a 3D printing class, teaching a 3D printing class. I'm pretty knowledgeable with it. And I wouldn't mind getting a little bit of help with mine just because my first layer does not always come out the way I want it.
We have a 3D printing class on the schedule for September 2nd.
Nice.
Yes, that's the Saturday, September 2nd.
Nice. And I can bring in an SLA printer too, to even just give because I got an extra one for free.
We've been offered them, and we've decided not to have them here.
With the resin, yeah.
Yeah, with the resin and the multiple steps and the potential for mess. Because while people are usually good about cleaning up after themselves, they're not always.
Yeah.
And it's just a big potential for big mess.
Yeah, I can see that.
We do not mind if you bring it for a day to show off, but please do not leave it here.
Yeah, definitely.
And because we like the FDM printers that are as plug and play as you can.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you very much, James, for introducing. And thanks again, Mark. Last call for Raphael, in case you were not with us, but now are. All right, perhaps next time. One more bit of new membership business. The process has been completed for Johan Molina and Matt Colombo. Pardon?
Johan, fucking white boy.
I worked with someone named
I
Johan.
feel like a real ass. Wow.
I like that moment of. Oh, yeah.
Oh shit! Wait, is it actually Johan?
Over the fact that he butchered my last name.
Well,
One thing at a time.
Molina. Molina. Dios mío.
Congratulations to Johan and Matt. I don't know, is Matt with us on the internet?
I have not seen him.
We have many Matts. I'm one of them. So now we don't want to forget show and tell. I know Brian mentioned he had something, so he'd be first up. If anyone else has something to show and or tell, keep that in mind. You can be next right after Brian. Brian, if you are ready, take it away.
Right. So if you've been in the 3D printing channels or the gaming channel, you've probably seen me working on this, but I've been working on a fight stick. I got a fancy build plate, which gave it that texture that the camera can't quite focus on. I'm going to try the autofocus. There we go.
Nice.
So you can see the fancy pattern it etched in there. I just CAD'd the entire design from scratch, and it's going to need another revision before I truly release the files, but this one's good enough to actually wire up. And if I didn't have the back all sealed, I'd open it up for you, but there's pictures of the inside in Gaming Chan. But yeah, it's a little fight stick. So.
Your favorite fighter?
Bold of you to assume I've played a fighting game since the Genesis, and that was button mashing.
But button mashing is so fun.
Yes, and now I have a big plate to mash my entire hand on at once.
Touche. Any other questions for Brian or comments about the weird lovely?
Oh, it's powered by a Raspberry Pi Pico, by the way. So super simple guts, aside from having to hand wire every single button because I didn't commission I didn't order a PCB.
Wow.
Ouch.
Kudos.
Would it work on consoles, like say a Switch?
It'll work on Switch. It'll work on Xbox 360. It'll work on PS4 for 8 minutes. It will not work on. That's because 8 minutes is how often PS4 does its checks for is it a legitimate controller.
There's an update that came out where you can it rips the security from another controller, and you can copy it over to the GP 2040 CE firmware and get past the 8-minute restriction now.
Yeah, but that means you've also got to have a PS4 controller to strip the signing key from.
Yep, that's true.
It does not work with the Xbox One or PS5 unless you're using a PS4 game, in which case it has the same restrictions as a PS4.
Let me know if you need a PS4 controller to investigate the possibility. Never mind.
Yeah.
Next.
Anyone else? To show and or tell?
All I've made this month decisions.
So, all right. Seeing no more show and tell, we want to mention some upcoming events we have. And these are sort of in order. The next open house we have will be the second Tuesday of the month, which is September 12th for next month. That will be at 8 p.m. The next board meeting that we have will be the day before that, Monday, September 11th at 8 p.m. The next member meeting like this will be approximately a month from now, September 19th, the third Tuesday of the month. We will host. Are we still hosting Inventors Council?
One of those days we'll be hosting Inventors Council. I'm not exactly sure which one.
Okay, so we will be hosting Inventors Council of Central Florida either the 2nd or the 16th of next month. If that is critical to you, check with us. We can get back to you.
Or check their website. I believe their calendar says whether it's on-site or off-site. Our calendar might say the other. I'm not sure either.
So check their website if you need to be physically at that meeting, wherever it may be. Next, we have an Open Meetup Linux user group here. That'll be September 6th at 7 p.m. And that is a Wednesday evening. So Wednesday, September 6th, 7 p.m. we will have a Linux user group. Finally, we have 3D Printing 101, as mentioned before, September 2nd at 5 p.m. That's a Saturday. I think that's 2 or 3 Saturdays away. So that's not too far away. And that's all that we have planned, scheduled for now. But if someone out there is interested in maybe getting something set up, sometime next September, we can put it on the calendar pretty quickly once you've got a general idea of what kind of event you'd want to do. So kind of like with content for Adam, if you have an idea for an event, we can help you get it up on the calendar, but we just need the details for the event so that we know, roughly.
There is a pinned post in the Events in Classes channel in Slack that links to a Google form, and that lets us know that, or you can just post in that channel, and we'll be like, all right, what are the details? We're not super fancy or official.
And every Tuesday is our social night, so that's when we tend to have a lot of members out. Tuesdays and sometimes Saturdays. Lately, it's been very, very warm, so not as many people have been out, understandably. But Tuesdays we have had pretty good attendance. So if you're interested in joining us, please do. And otherwise, unless anyone has anything for the good of the group, we have completed everything we need to complete. So any questions, comments, or concerns for the good of the lab?
Thank you, Matt.
Happy to help. All right. Well, that will conclude our business. Thank you for joining us for the August general membership meeting, and we hope you'll join us for the next one if you can. Take care.
Hey, Mark. I had a quick question for you. If you got a sec.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, I wasn't sure.